Brand is more important than ever today. And all three of us are old enough and experienced enough to understand how brand and vision has changed and how visionary brands have changed, especially concerning the size, scope, and scale of the audience. And so the strategies that we have to utilize go far beyond the digital aspect, meaning of the creative content that can be created through inexpensive digital repurposing and promotion. But I think one of the most significant things in your success formula in utilizing this idea of a world's most visionary brand is truly to understand one of the foundational principles of size, scope, and scale of community or audience. For you, how have you seen the differentiators in building a visionary brand, a world's visionary brand, considering we now can actually access the whole world?
When I first started kind of putting pen to paper, one of the things I realized is the name of the book, The Visionary Brand. I found there wasn't a visionary brand. I find that there's a lot of context to being a visionary, whether it just be the leader, product, innovation. I ask people that question and I get a different answer every time. Well, it's product, it's the person at the top. But I've found in building this community, what's different in these visionary brands is how they engage. What I found is there's a real engagement, not only from the outside, but also from the inside. And the passion that you instill through the visionary and kind of infect the rest of those inside the company, as well as those outside the company, because what we've seen change over the last even 5 years or so is just this, what I call a journey, this journey to purchase. And we've always had that funnel aspect of people, once they purchase, kicking them out the back end and moving on to the next one. But now visionary brands are engaging on that journey post-purchase and building this community. And that's where the strength of brand equity comes from nowadays. And I find that with most visionary brands.
Bryan, do you feel, in my experience, what makes people fail and their visions fail is when they're not authentic, and people can smell it. With your research, how important is it to be authentic?
Great question, Mike. And I find it to be one that actually carries across several levels of a visionary brand, is that authentication is what draws people to a company in the first place. And also it's being committed to that foundational commitment of being authentic, right? It's this where you find, hey, one day they're this type of brand, the next day they're not premium, the next day they're looking to sell their product in a channel they shouldn't be selling into. So there's a couple different levels, Mike, I found with visionary brands and authentication. One is the vision itself and being authentic and sticking to your vision regardless of the circumstances. And I use an example in the book about Quicksilver. Bob McKnight is a friend of mine. And Bob, back in the day, I don't know if you remember, there was a really, really bad recession and a lot of the action sports companies didn't make it. And Bob had a commitment to being commitment and authentic to those who made Quicksilver. And so at the time, he gave them the opportunity to pay their bills when they had the ability to pay their bills. And nobody ever forgot that. And it allowed Bob, cutting through the recession, post-recession, to be extremely successful, but it was authentic because he knew who built them. And so I find that side of it being authentic to your community and those outside your community, but also those that are part of your authenticators and influencers need to be authentic. And, I'll use a run company as an example. I had an example of a run company where if you have somebody that isn't an authentic runner, all of a sudden those that are part of your community that are looking for value beyond product don't find it in somebody that's not authentic. And so it can really ruin your brand equity on a couple different levels.